Today, I am giving some tough love and exposing the truth that we feel discomfort when we express our needs, and we feel discomfort when we stay silent. It's time to choose discomfort that brings you internal peace. Let's get uncomfortable. Hey, lady. Welcome to the Highly Sensitive Woman podcast. Do you struggle with self-doubt, setting boundaries, or feeling overwhelmed? My name is Alyssa, and I'm a highly sensitive woman who spent years trying to fit in, ignoring my own needs, and living in constant fear of disappointing others. But I finally discovered the power of embracing who I am, and now I don't feel so broken. In this podcast, you'll learn to find your voice, set boundaries, and live with bold confidence and inner peace. Grab a cozy blanket. It's time to connect with someone just like you. I am thrilled that you have tuned in today because we are talking about the reality of discomfort. And when I finally learned the truth, it completely changed everything for me. But before we get into today's topic, I wanted to share a review from Kay Borsetti. She writes, "I'm glad you are taking the time to discuss this. I'm a more sensitive woman. I've had to do some hard work to get where I am and felt alone in that walk. It's good to know I'm in good company, and I'll definitely continue to listen in for support and encouragement. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Alyssa." Thank you so much for this review. It really warms my heart to know that you feel comfort and feel like you are in good company, because I know for me, so long I felt like I was alone in this journey, and I want to be a voice for those of us who are highly sensitive women so that no one continues to feel alone. One of the ways that I always felt alone stemmed from my tendency to not express my needs. I never used to express my needs. I would just shove them down and defer to the other person. And sometimes, if someone asks me, "What do you want for dinner?" I might not actually care. I might not have an opinion, but a lot of times I did have an opinion. Every time I would say, "I don't care. What are you in the mood for?" And I know that seems like such a small thing, but I did that with everything. I would just stuff how I was feeling down until I couldn't stuff it anymore. And then I would sort of explode. And it would usually be over something small or trivial, like what I wanted for dinner. And it, to the other person, might feel like it came completely out of left field. And it really was unfair to the other person. It was certainly unfair to me. And what I found was I would stuff it down and I would eat my emotions, and I would literally make myself sick by eating things that made me feel awful. But I also felt sick because of all of those emotions that were in me that were not coming out. I also had this just sort of low level anger that kind of permeated through everything that I did. And a lot of times I didn't even realize that's what it was. It was only until later, when I started expressing how I was feeling, that I was able to recognize in hindsight how much of my life and how many moments I had gone through with this kind of undercurrent of anger. But I never expressed it in a way that most of us would typically recognize immediately was anger. I felt jealousy toward people who didn't seem to struggle with expressing what it was and what they needed. And I also had resentment toward people in my life who always seemed to be getting their way and I wasn't getting mine. Never really understanding that I had some responsibility in that to express my needs. So one of the things that happened for me pretty frequently was going to get my hair done. That's kind of my my self-care thing. That's one of the things that I really enjoy doing for myself, is getting my hair done. And I am allergic to fragrances. So I would go to get my hair done, and I would never say anything to the person who was doing my hair about being allergic to fragrances. And they would use the products that were in their salon, and I would leave there literally feeling sick because I had been exposed to all of these fragrances. And so then over time, I started to say something up front, so that they wouldn't use products, but I would still let them use the shampoo that they had on their back bar. And then after a while of that, then I just started taking my own shampoo. But still, if they accidentally forgot and put products in my hair, I wouldn't say anything. I would just have this, frustration with them and that low level of anger that I was mentioning. And as I started to realize that I had every right to express my wants and my needs and my desires, and I had every right to have those needs met. And as I developed the skills to sit with the discomfort that came from speaking up and expressing myself, I started to find that discomfort of staying silent dissipating. Because the reality is, we feel discomfort either way. We feel discomfort by staying silent, and we feel discomfort by expressing ourselves. And a lot of times we don't express our needs because it is super scary and we feel so uncomfortable. And we tell ourselves that we don't want to be a burden for other people, and we don't want to be perceived as high maintenance, or we don't want to upset someone else or hurt their feelings. But here's the reality, and I love this quote by Neil Strauss, and when I heard it for the first time, it really did kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. Neil is quoted as saying, "Unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments." I'm going to let that just sink in for a minute. Unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments. Oh my goodness. We find ourselves, and it's not conscious at first. We don't even realize that we're doing this, but we are sort of walking around by staying silent, expecting other people to read our minds, and then we get upset with them when they don't. Our feelings are hurt. And what actually ends up happening is we become a burden for ourselves. Then we explode and we end up hurting other people's feelings anyway. And it might not even be the person that we are feeling that resentment toward. It just might be the person, in the checkout line, or just whoever is around at the moment where we can't stuff it any longer and it has to come out. I was having a conversation about this with one of my mentors, and she shared that resentment feels like you are angry at another person. But the reality is, it's an indication or a sign that you have compromised yourself, you didn't set clear boundaries, and that the person you are really angry at is you. And I know that can be a little bit prickly and a little bit of an ouch. But it can also be really freeing, because when you recognize that that is what happens, that is when you can start to shift and move away from that inner turmoil that is being created by staying silent and the physical sensations that you are feeling. Maybe when you are holding things in and you are feeling that resentment and that anger, maybe your body is shaking, or you feel like you want to punch something. Or for me, I could literally feel the adrenaline and other chemicals moving through my body and was experiencing lots and lots of discomfort. And if I'm completely honest, I experienced all of those physical sensations and all of that inner turmoil and discomfort when I first started expressing my needs too. It is completely normal at first for it to be really discomfort and to not even know how to do it. Just like anything else that we have learned throughout our lives, we didn't know how to do it at first. And then we started learning and we started practicing, and eventually we developed that skill. So when you first start expressing your needs and your desires, it can be really uncomfortable. But over time, you can create a version of you that you can be proud of because you're setting those clear boundaries and you're not being explosive and you're not being nasty either to the person or to some completely innocent stranger who has done something at the moment where you have reached your limit. You can start releasing that anger and that premeditated resentment, and you start creating that internal peace. Because the reality is, the discomfort of staying silent, it never goes away. That discomfort will always be there because we are denying ourselves what it is that we need. But what is so cool is that the discomfort of expressing your needs, it does get less and less over time. Just like that discomfort of learning a new skill, every time you get a little bit better at it, and it starts to come to you more naturally, and you don't even have to think about it. It just sort of comes out of you. And that's what's happened for me. I started with small things, with lots of practice. I would rehearse ahead of time what it was that I wanted to say. If in a moment I didn't have the right words, I would think about it later, wish what I would have said or done, and then I would practice what I wanted to say for the next time. So here was a perfect example with getting my hair done. I would think about how I wish that looked. I would think about, man, I wish I had the courage to take my own shampoo. I wish I had the courage to tell the person when they were reaching for the products, no, don't put that in my hair. And that's where I am now. Just a week or so ago, I was getting my hair done. And I've been going to this person for a while. So he knows that I bring my own shampoo and he knows not to put products in my hair. And the first time he reached for the products, I was like, nope, remember, no products in my hair. And then as we were wrapping up, putting those final touches on, he reached for it again. And I just said, nope. That was the only word that came out of me. And it just came so naturally. And we both laughed about it. And what was super cool is he even said to me, I love that you just said nope to me. Just to remind me, not to put products in your hair. And in that moment, I felt so much pride. I was incredibly proud of myself that I didn't have to think about it. I no longer had the discomfort of expressing what I needed. I've told him over and over again, and I didn't feel any resentment toward him. I didn't feel any anger. What was even cooler, I didn't second guess it or ruminate about it after. The only thoughts that I've had about it after was because I wanted to share this example with you on today's episode. So if you find yourself going through life with just this low level, or maybe it's kind of a high level of anger and resentment, I want you to take a look at where are the areas where I am not speaking up for myself and I am not expressing my needs, and noticing the discomfort that is coming from that. And then recognizing that there will be discomfort from starting to express your needs. But on the other side of that one does get more comfortable. The discomfort of staying silent never, ever goes away. But the discomfort of expressing yourself and setting boundaries and saying what you need, that one does get easier. And if this is a skill that you have never learned and would like some help with that, I would love to help you on that journey. You can send me a message to info@lifecoachalyssa.com and we can schedule a consultation and get you started on the journey of setting boundaries and getting comfortable with the discomfort of expressing your needs. I'll talk to you soon. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who may be feeling like she's broken too? I'd love it if you'd leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. It brings me so much joy to know this podcast is helping you. Now it's time for me to stop talking and go soothe my senses in nature. I'll meet you back here next week for another episode. Take care.